Football fans far and wide, welcome to the Football v Football podcast, a show about American football and English football. In today's episode, we'll be discussing American football, the NFL. With the fantasy season upon us, we'll be discussing position rankings, starting with running backs. So in this ranking, this is something you won't find anywhere else. I've been playing fantasy football for over 20 years, and over that time I've seen the arc of what happens to running backs throughout the season and what aspects of their skill set are valuable and enduring, and I'll share that at the end of the podcast. So without further ado, let's get started with the fantasy running back rankings. So, as you can see here at number 32, we have Cam Akers from the Los Angeles Rams. So he's entering his third year, but has already been injured a lot. He's the starter on the depth chart and is going to have some initial opportunities and definitely has some skill. But, he's been fortunate that the rookie Kyron Williams hasn't played all preseason. Also, he has Darrell Henderson right behind him, so it'll be tough to keep the job. But again, he does have skill and opportunity at the moment, so Cam Akers at 32. Next at 31, Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas Cowboys. He was once a great running back, but may have, essentially career ending injuries that we'll possibly see soon. It just seems like last year he really slowed down and wasn't the back that he once was. I'm much higher on his now backup, Tony Pollard, who is, in my belief, a better runner, a better pass catcher, and you'll see where he ranks a bit later in the order here. So Ezekiel Elliott at 31. At 30 here we have Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. And in my opinion, it's a real shame what happened to this guy in the NFL. He has so much skill and promise, but he's just had so many injuries, hasn't been able to stay healthy. Really fast, and one of the league's best backs when healthy. But he's rarely healthy, and the surrounding offense is pretty bad. So defenses will constantly key on him. So Saquon Barkley at number 30. At 29, we have Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, I realize how low this is going by most rankings, but he is getting older with wear and tear. He has A.J. Dillon as the power back behind him. And, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, but the receivers are going to be subpar this season with the departure of Devontae Adams. So defenses are likely to stack the box, and that's going to come to the detriment of Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones at 29. At 28 here, I have Alvin Kamara from the New Orleans Saints. There have been questions about legal issues that he might have, how much he'll play this season. Has been a very high usage back over the years. If and when he plays, he's going to have a lot of people right behind him in the depth chart, like Tony Jones or Abram Smith, who will likely eventually take his spot due to either suspension or injury. Abram Smith, I'll say especially, is a rookie, and even though he's not super quick, he does have great vision and is a good pass catcher. So I'd stash him in a later round in your draft. So Alvin Kamara at 28. At 27, I have Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a good back, but he's getting older, has wear and tear, injury prone, and there are some pretty decent running backs behind him on the depth chart. So 27, Joe Mixon. 26 here, I got Nick Chubb from the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be tough without their QB Deshaun Watson for most of the season. Teams are really going to stack the box here. He also has Kareem Hunt to contend with. Um, if you get him, definitely handcuff him with Kareem Hunt. Um, yeah, I just think Chubb is getting up there in seasons and damage essentially. So I have Nick Chubb at 26 here. Next, at 25, Austin Eckler from the Los Angeles Chargers. He was a great back a couple years ago, but has had many injuries. His build is a little bit slight. He's still the starter, but I think that'll change. And I project his backup a bit higher, which you'll see a bit later in the rankings here. So Austin Eckler at 25. Next, at 24, Dalvin Cook from the Minnesota Vikings. Again, he's a great running back, but very injury prone. Definitely handcuff him with his backup Alexander Madison in later rounds. Both actually are hard to trust for a full season. Madison also gets injured at times. Um, I don't believe Dalvin Cook has played an entire season before. So again, there's evidence there that he should be, this low because he's not going to last full seasons. Um, so Dalvin Cook, number 24. Number 23, I have Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers. He has an undeniable skill set. Great pass catcher, great runner. Even through college, I used to watch him at, in Stanford games, but incredibly injury prone and has had too high usage throughout his young career. If you do draft McCaffrey, definitely be sure to get Chuba Hubbard, his backup, in later rounds. Um, Obviously, conventional wisdom here will say that he'll be gone by this late in the draft, but this is my personal value rankings, and he seems to get injured every year. My personal opinion, I think unfortunately this guy may end up retiring early given all the injuries he's had. I hope that's not the case, but it just kind of seems like it's trending in that direction. So number 23, Christian McCaffrey. At number 22 here, I have Isaiah Spiller from the Los Angeles Chargers. So he's second on the depth chart. He's a rookie. And the play here is if or when Eckler, who's getting up there in age and seems to be a bit injury prone, moves aside, he has a ton of promise. He's a bit of a plotter, I will say, but again, he's a rookie. I value those very highly in terms of running backs, and I think he'll be a lot better in terms of reliability and endurance. So 22, Isaiah Spiller. At 21 here, I have Isaiah Pacheco from the Kansas City Chiefs. I know this is a bit of a surprise, but this guy, he's really good if you watch any tape. The only reason he's this low is he's currently third on the depth chart, but he's extremely fast. I mean, this guy, he runs like he's late to class. He breaks tackles, and it's really only a matter of time before he's the starter. I really believe that. I think at some point this season he will start. So at 21, Isaiah Pacheco. At number 20 here, we have Hassan Haskins from the Tennessee Titans. He's a rookie. He's currently second on the depth chart, but there's a pretty packed running back room with young guys, and of course Derrick Henry ahead of him. Derrick Henry, again, I think will get injured at some point, just like he does every year. And Haskins is a tremendous back that'll get opportunities at some point. I'm pretty confident in that. So, at number 20, Hassan Haskins. And number 19, J.K. Dobbins from the Baltimore Ravens. So he's the starter here. He's number one on the depth chart. He's still young as a third-year back that didn't play much last year or at all. Um, he's still a second year essentially in terms of usage. So he's had some injury issues, but he's showed a lot of promise and is a great back. I think he'll excel this year. So J.K. Dobbins at number 19. So number 18 and 17 here, I'm going to do something a little different, which is a pick one or both, which is both of the Chicago Bears running backs, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. So both of these, Chicago Bears running backs, it's a great young backfield, I think, with Montgomery in his fourth year and Herbert in his second year. I anticipate this being a very run-heavy offense, given the poor receivers and the young quarterback in Justin Fields. So I think this is going to be a great spot for both of these guys. Again, I'm going to say this is both 17 and 18. Pick one or both. David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Again here, I'm going to have at 16 and 15 the New England Patriots backfield, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. Again, both great young backs. Harris is a fourth-year back, but only played 2 seasons, I think, as a starter, so essentially a third year. And Stevenson, this is his second year. Their coach, Bill Belichick, has some weird rotations with running backs, but both of them are really good, and I'm anticipating a run-heavy offense. Also, I would advocate for the third string rookie running back Pierre Strong here. He looks good, and I think he fits in a third down back role. But again, he might be buried too deep in the depth chart, and the coach may play others ahead of him like Montgomery, Taylor, Kevin Harris. It's pretty packed behind Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, but I would say I would put both of these guys at number 16 and 15 as a pick one or both. Next at 14 and 13, another pick one or both. This is a Seattle Seahawks backfield, Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker. This is going to be a very, very run-heavy offense. I am a Seattle Seahawks supporter, and I've been tracking how this offseason has been going. They're going to start Geno Smith at quarterback, which we'll see how that goes. But essentially, that means this is going to be a very, very run-heavy offense. I would have put Walker much higher, but he's been injured all preseason, and it's potentially serious for the first few games. I'm hearing, Coach Pete Carroll, always gives mixed signals with this kind of stuff, and because Penny's in front of him, and he was the best back in the league for the last maybe 5 games or 6 games of last season. But for 3.5 years before that, he was constantly injured. And if I'm being honest here, watching the preseason DJ Dallas, even their third string guy looks good and might be a great late round pick or even an undrafted pick. So um, Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker here at 14 and 13. Pick one or both. Again here, the last one I'll have of these is the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Whichever one you get, I mean, get the other one as a handcuff for sure. Both are great, and I think this will truly be a 50-50 split with Harris doing the first and second down work, and then Warren getting third down work, which includes pass catching. So the points will even out with PPR there. Najee is a second year with Warren being a rookie. I can see Najee getting hurt at some point later in the season, given he's a bruising back, and I hear there are rumors of a leg injury he has already. So, but if he does stay healthy, he's going to be very valuable. But also Jalen Warren will be as well. So at 11 and 12 here, I have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Pick one or both. And number 10 here, Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys. This is a guy I'm very high on. I think he's been tremendously underutilized throughout his career. He's currently, second in the depth chart behind Zeke. It's his fourth year. I think he'll really be unleashed this year. As I mentioned before, Zeke's been breaking down. Pollard has one of the highest yards per touch in the league. He's a great pass catcher, and there's really no reason why he shouldn't be utilized this year. So Tony Pollard, number 10. Number 9, I have DeAndre Swift from the Detroit Lions. He's a great back. He's first on the depth chart. It's his third year. Tremendous at both pass catching and running, and I think he's primed for a great year. So DeAndre Swift at number 9. Number 8, I have Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. He's a third-year back. Tremendous finish to last season. He's explosive, relatively young, and hasn't taken a ton of damage yet. So I think he's a great pick. So Jonathan Taylor at number 8. At number 7, I have Zamir White from the Las Vegas Raiders. He's currently second on the depth chart behind Josh Jacobs, who's now in his fourth year. Zamir White is a rookie, but Josh Jacobs has taken a lot of damage throughout the years, and the coach has given him kind of weird rotations in the preseason, playing him a lot during the beginning preseason games, which they usually do to backup players. So watching tape of Zamir, he's great at breaking tackles and getting those short yards when needed. I think Jacobs will eventually either get injured or be supplanted by Zamir White. And to top it off, Zamir White's got a great nickname in Zeus, so I think he's going to excel this year. Zamir White at number 7. Number 6 here, I have Breece Hall from the New York Jets. He's in one of the best situations of all the rookies here. He was drafted very highly by this team. He's number 1 already in the depth chart. There's a second-year guy behind him, Michael Carter. I will say, watching some Breece Hall tape, he's not a tremendous runner. He's going to have great opportunities, but his offensive line isn't great. This is one guy who I think is going to get more and more comfortable as the season goes on, but because he's a rookie, he's going to be very durable. He's going to have a lot of opportunity. So Breece Hall at number 6. Number 5, I have James Cook from the Buffalo Bills. So this is Dalvin Cook's brother. He's second on the Bills depth chart behind Devin Singletary. He looks like a great pass catcher for more points in PPR. Um, looking at Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, who are both around him on the depth chart, they were pretty average last year. So I see James Cook overtaking them pretty soon. So James Cook at number 5. Coming down here to the top 4, I have at number 4 Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons. He's second on the depth chart behind Cordero Patterson, who had a great year last year. But I just think something has to give with Patterson this year. He has too much damage, very high usage, did everything for them, and had an exceptional season. And when I say that, I mean as an exception to the rule. He had an anomalous season. I don't think he's going to repeat that. So Tyler looks explosive in a lot of the preseason games, and I just think he's bound to take that job. So at number 4, Tyler Algier. Number 3, I got Javonte Williams from the Denver Broncos. He's first on the depth chart. He's a second-year guy. Great runner, great pass catcher, really exceptional. I think his backup Melvin Gordon will fade this year, and Williams will get a lot of touches. He was somewhat preserved last year given he was splitting carries with Gordon. So I think his usage was not where it could be. So he was, I think he's going to be in line for a lot of work this year, and I think he's going to do very well. So Javonte Williams at number 3. Now we're into the top 2 here. At number 2, I have Travis Etienne from the Jacksonville Jaguars. This guy's first on the depth chart, right ahead of James. He moved right ahead of James Robinson. He's essentially a rookie because he didn't play last year. He runs a little bit taller, and I think just personally should probably, bend the legs a little bit for more leverage. But he's one of the fastest running backs I've ever seen. Him and Saquon Barkley in college were the only 2 backs that I've seen that run faster than the cameraman could follow them, which was just kind of crazy. So again, like I mentioned, he has James Robinson behind him, who started last year. But Etienne, he's also a great pass catcher, so he'll get a lot of PPR points. I think he's going to do really, really well in the league this year. So Travis Etienne at number 2. Finally, at number 1, Dameon Pierce from the Houston Texans. First on the depth chart. He's a rookie with no damage. Texans just cut his supposed backup Marlon Mack, so he has an exceptional opportunity here. He has tremendous burst, tremendous cutting, tremendous speed. He's in a great situation. He has subpar backs behind him like Rex Burkhead. So there's a ton of promise here. I think he's in for a great, great year. He's going pretty late in a lot of drafts. So if you can snag this guy early, I think that would be great, great value. So I'm putting Dameon Pierce at number 1. Some other folks here I will mention that didn't make the list. Most importantly is Brian Robinson from the Washington Commanders. So I had initially had him as the second overall running back on this list until there was some recent news that came out that he was shot multiple times in a carjacking attempt. Reports are the injuries are not life-threatening, and he's hopefully going to be okay. And Coach Rivera is even projecting him to play at some point this season. So wishing him a speedy recovery. From a fantasy perspective and his career, it's really unfortunate. Obviously, he was set to take over from Antonio Gibson. Gibson was going to be demoted after a really bad training camp and preseason. Um, I hear that the coaching staff was set to use Gibson more on special teams, and he's aging as well. Robinson in the preseason as a rookie showed amazing ability as a runner and pass catcher. He looked exceptional and bound for a great season with a great opportunity. Um, again, prayers for a speedy recovery, but this is one player to track and maybe stash in the late round. Another honorable mention is Kyron Williams from the Los Angeles Rams, who I had mentioned earlier. He's a rookie. He hasn't played during the preseason. He has Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson ahead of him, who are both injury prone. So he's another one to keep your eye on. Um, Another honorable mention is Tyrion Davis Price from the San Francisco 49ers. He's second on the depth chart. He's a rookie. The only reason he's this low is, their Coach Shanahan, has very strange running back rotations. There's other, promising young guys on this list like Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason, but it just seems like Tyrion would be in line to start if Mitchell gets injured. Tyrion is really, hit or miss on most runs. His good runs and catches are fantastic, but there are some plays he seems to read his protection incorrectly and runs into piles. So he's just one to keep your eye on as well as the season progresses. And the last honorable mention I'll mention here is Rachaad White from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a rookie. He's second on the depth chart. He isn't explosive, but again, he's a rookie, and with Fournette, the lead guy Leonard Fournette, being older in front of him, uh, Rachaad White could eventually get an opportunity this season. So those are my honorable mentions. Just a note here, I'm sure many of you are looking back on this and thinking this might sound crazy, but the goal is to win a championship and be formidable throughout the fantasy playoffs in the end of the year. And many of these veteran running backs that have taken a lot of damage over the years at the most physically taxing position, and two have very high usage and very likely to be injured many weeks of the season and rendered useless for your team. We see it every year. So I never draft running backs like Derrick Henry who fit all those categories. Um, Plus, they aren't skilled pass catchers or utilized in that aspect, which would at least give you extra points in PPR. Um, so what you've essentially seen here is rookie running backs in team situations that are set to start are the most valuable because they've taken the least amount of damage in the NFL and are least likely to get injured and thus give you the best value over the entire 16, 17, 18 week season to deliver your team a fantasy championship. So yes, those veterans are going higher in most rankings and will give you good returns early in the season. But as the season goes on, they will lose their value like they always do. So rookies are most valuable. Second years are second on that tier. Third years are third, and so on. Um, with pass catching backs or third down backs offering great value as well, since most leagues are PPR at this point. So that'll bring this first episode to a conclusion here. So thanks so much for tuning in today for the inaugural episode of the Football v Football podcast. I have some of the websites up here. You can follow us on Instagram at football_v_football. On Twitter, we're at fballvfball. Also on YouTube, which you'll be seeing shortly. Again, Football v Football is the YouTube channel. For the podcast side of it, you can find us on Anchor at, again, Football v Football. And finally, if you'd like to support this podcast, be very grateful. You can do so on Ko-fi here. The page is ko-fi.com/football v football. So thanks again, everyone, and have a fantastic day, football fans.